He began to depart the Hotel Texas Grand Ballroom. On his way out, he and Jackie stopped and talked to members of the boys' choir that sang for them at the start of the breakfast. One of the members of the boys' choir that the President and Mrs. Kennedy ran into is a 9-year-old by the name of Gary Bakewell. And as the President shook his hand, he said to the President again, "Hi, my name's Gary Bakewell, and I'm Catholic." And the President kind of smiled at the young boy and replied, "I'm Catholic too." And then the President asked the young man what he wanted to do when he grew up, and he said he was going to be a pilot. And then the President emphasized that he better know his mathematics and arithmetic if he's going to be a pilot. And then the President and Mrs. Kennedy departed, and the great story about that is Bakewell went on to become a pilot. Okay, so they departed the Hotel Texas ballroom, and they went back to their hotel suite. So they've left the ballroom, and they're up at their hotel suite at the Hotel Texas, and it's 10:14 a.m. Now in my notes, I have these times from 7 o'clock in the morning when we talked to Evelyn Lincoln, kind of highlighted or boxed or something, because you're going to need to know chronological order here on this deal. You need to know what happened, so keep that in mind. If you want to go back over your notes over the weekend or something, make sure you have those times lined out. That might be good. Now, I'm not going to ask you the exact time, but you're going to need to know the timeline, okay? So at 10:14 a.m. on the 22nd, we're still talking about the morning of the 22nd, the Kennedys arrived back at their hotel suite to prepare for the trip to Dallas. Remember, they're going to take that short trip to Dallas. Well, when President Kennedy got back to his hotel room, he called John Nance Garner. He called John Nance Garner, and he wished him a happy 95th birthday. He called John Nance Garner and wished him a happy 95th birthday. So President Kennedy called John Nance Garner and wished him a happy 95th birthday. Now just kind of put your history mind together and think, who might he be that the President would take the time to call him, and keeping in mind that he was 95 years old? Who might this guy be? What era might he have been in? What do you think he might have done? I mean, I'd be absolutely astonished if you could figure it out, but I'd like to see some guesses. What do you think? Nicholson, what do you think? What do you think he might be? In general, just what might he be, the President called him? Close, he's a politician, okay? But he did something during he did something during 2 of the 4 terms that Franklin Roosevelt served as our president. What do you think Garner did during 2 of those 4 terms? No? Okay, thanks, Will. Not that tough. During the 2 of the 4 terms of Franklin Roosevelt's presidency, what do you think John Nance Garner was? The what? I think you're right. What do you say? No? The vice president. Okay? He served 2 terms under President Franklin Roosevelt, and Kennedy knew him. They're both Democrats. And he took the time to wish John Nance Garner a happy 95th birthday up in his hotel suite prior to the departure to Dallas. Well, at 10:40 a.m., the presidential party left the Hotel Texas en route to Carswell Air Force Base. So at 10:40, the presidential party departed from the Hotel Texas in Fort Worth en route to Carswell Air Force Base. And that would be where Kennedy would fly out of into Love Field in Dallas. Okay? So at 10:40, the presidential party departed from the Hotel Texas en route to Carswell Air Force Base. Now, it's such a short flight, the president's not going to get a lot of rest, but he's going to have a conversation with someone during that real short flight from Fort Worth to Dallas. He's going to have a conversation with somebody that went with him. And who the person he had the conversation with was Governor John Conway. He had a short conversation with Governor John Conway during that short flight from Fort Worth to Dallas. So as soon as the plane took off, the president summoned Governor Conway into his cabin on the plane. Okay, so as soon as they got on the plane took off, the president summoned Governor John Conway, who was riding with him from Fort Worth to Dallas, and have a conversation with him. Alex, what do you think that conversation might have been about? Two things. Thinking about what we talked about and why he's going down here.
Isn't it, well, they discussed like the seating positions that they're gonna.
You're close, you're kind of warm there, but not the motorcade. Think about what Kennedy woke up to that morning when he picked up the paper. What was the headlines on the paper? Yarborough snubs LBJ. So what conversation did the president have with Governor Conley? Whoops, why did he snub him?
Because he didn't get it, so we asked like,
He didn't ask why.
he made him invite him.
He did. He told Governor Conley that you will put Senator Yarborough at the head table for the Austin fundraiser, and you will invite him to the post-day dinner, the reception at the Conley residence. So after about a 3-minute conversation, the governor agreed to put Senator Yarborough at the head table for the Austin fundraiser and also invite him to the post-dinner reception at the governor's mansion. So the president was making sure that his trip to Texas was not unsuccessful. So he got on Air Force One as soon as they took off. He summoned Governor Conley to the cabin, presidential cabin, and informed him that he would not only put Yarborough at the head table during the Austin fundraiser dinner, but he also would invite him to the reception afterwards. Okay? All right, we're gonna have a little quiz review here, then I'm gonna spend the rest of the period showing you a video. The first half of a video called 3 Shots That Changed America, which talks about some of these things that we're talking about here. So let's have the review first, shall we? So, get your notes out from the front, and this is what the quiz will be on tomorrow. Hey Aubrey, I want you to tell me, I want you to list the top 3 politicians in the state of Texas that were feuding in 1963 that resulted in Kennedy's trip to Texas, and include their political positions. Okay? Well, it's 3 answers. Okay, I'll repeat that.
Okay.
List the 3 top politicians in the state of Texas that were feuding in 1963 that resulted in the president's trip to Texas, and please include their political positions. What were they?
Okay, Lyndon B. Johnson,
Lyndon B. Johnson, who was the,
Vice President.
okay,
John Connolly, who was the governor of Texas.
Very
and
good.
Yarborough, who was the senator of Texas.
that's right, and you're gonna need to know those names and how to spell them tomorrow, so make sure you pay attention to them. So the 3 were Senator Ralph Yarborough, Governor John Connolly, and Vice President Lyndon Johnson. Okay? All right. Levi, give me one example of the poor treatment UN Ambassador Adlai Stevenson endured during his speech at the United Nations Day in Dallas in October of '63. One.
They walked up and down the aisles with American flags upside down.
Very good. Give me another one there, Hoyt.
They talk in cadence.
Okay, give you another one there, Allison.
Yelling during the speech, is that one?
Well, how about a little bit better detail? So they walked up and down the aisles with American flags upside down. They coughed in cadence. Braden?
Some lady hit him over the head with a protest sign.
Very good. He was hit over the head with a protest sign. How about another one there? Sadria?
They just acted very disrespectful.
And that's kind of what you said. They acted very disrespectful by interrupting his speech. And what was the last thing that happened to him, Glenn? Do you remember? They spit on him. Okay, you're going to need to know a few of those. Not all of them, but a few. Okay? Okay, Emmy, what were President Kennedy's plans that were announced by Press Secretary Pierre Salinger on November 1st, 1963? What were his plans? What was he going to do? Don't overthink it. Think it. I don't want the agenda for the 21st. I just want to know what Kennedy's plans were that were announced on November 1st by Pierre Salinger. What was he going to do?
To go to Texas,
Where first?
Florida.
He's going to go to Florida, then to Texas to do what?
Well, they said for the military inspection.
To inspect military installations. Golden. Okay? He was going to go, the president was going to travel to both Florida and Texas to inspect military installations in both states. Okay, Carmen, give me one reason, one of the three reasons, why President Kennedy's aides urged him not to travel to the city of Dallas during his Texas tour.
Other than Adlai Stevenson, or is that one?
Yeah, no, you're good, but I'm gonna help you, I wanna see what you say first, so what do you wanna say about that?
How Adlai Stevenson was treated.
Very good, that's perfect. How the treatment of Adlai Stevenson at UN Day is how I would put it. The treatment of Adlai Stevenson during UN Day. You don't have to go into a bunch of detail, just the treatment of Adlai Stevenson during UN Day. Okay, Callie, what might be another one?
The right-wing extremist.
Well, that kind of is the same, but, so,
Well,
the right-wing extremists, what about them?
That's where they were located.
Right, Dallas was the let's just do it this way.
Ground zero.
Dallas was ground zero for the far right in Texas, or Dallas was the center of the far right. Instead of saying far right extremists, I'll help you out. Dallas was the center of the far right in Texas, okay? Dallas was the center for the far right in Texas. And what was the last one, Emma? Against whose policies?
Kennedy's.
Okay, the people of Dallas were too outspoken against President Kennedy's policies. Okay, those are the three you need. Okay, the three reasons that Kennedy aides
And that was
encouraged him not to go to Dallas was the treatment of Adlai Stevenson at UN Day. Number two, that Dallas was the center of the far right in Texas. And number three, the people of Dallas were too outspoken against President Kennedy's policies. Okay, all right. Emily, excuse me, I've been to Emma, and Emmy, now I'm at Emily. Who was the man responsible to make a detailed inspection of possible hazards along the presidential motorcade route just prior to President Kennedy's visit?
Ray Bundy,
Okay, what was his position?
he was deputy chief, that's what I have right now.
Okay, deputy police chief, yep. Okay, well, it should be in your notes, right? Ray Lundy. Okay, so, Hannah Vigil, who was the Dallas police chief who addressed the people of that city on November 20th, 1963 about the upcoming visit by President Kennedy? Who was the police chief? Ray Lundy was the deputy police chief. Who was the police chief? Jesse Curry, very good. Taylor Fulfer, who was the congressman that President Kennedy was going to speak on behalf during his visit to Houston, Texas? Who was the person he was going to speak on the behalf of? Okay, well, you just go crazy and find it.
I don't know, I can't find it.
Really? I bet I can find it in there. Because I know that you're pretty bright.
Oh, Albert Thomas.
Very good, Albert Thomas. Okay. Now, I'll help you with this one because it's important to understand this. The last question will be, list President Kennedy's Dallas agenda for the day of November 22nd, 1963. It should consist of 3 parts. Okay? What's the first thing that he was going to do? He was going to take an 11-mile motorcade trip through downtown Dallas. Okay?
What day, you said?
What's that?
What day?
This was his agenda for,
22nd?
this was his agenda for November 22nd, 1963 in Dallas. I'm not asking for Fort Worth or anything, just in Dallas. So the first thing he was to do in Dallas was to ride an 11-mile motorcade trip through downtown Dallas, right? Hey Haley, what was the second thing he was gonna do after that 11-mile motorcade trip through downtown Dallas? Oh, great.
He's gonna give a speech
He was gonna give a luncheon speech where?
at
Not the Casper Event Center, but the,
Trade Park.
very good. He was going to give a luncheon speech at the Trade Mart in Dallas where he was going to address 2,500 luncheon guests. That's the second thing he was going to do. Okay, he was going to take an 11-mile motorcade trip through downtown Dallas, and then he was going to attend a luncheon at the Trade Mart in Dallas where he was gonna address 2,500 luncheon guests. Yes, please. And Mauricio, while you're there, what was the third thing he was gonna do for the day, publicly? After he gave his luncheon speech at the Trade Mart, what was he gonna do next?
He was gonna go to, Lyndon Johnson.
Well, before that, just before that.
He's gonna fly to Austin, Texas.
They were gonna fly to Austin, Texas, and what was he gonna do there?
Give a speech at a 100-plate dinner.
Right, so he was gonna depart Dallas for Austin, Texas to speak at a $100 a plate dinner. Those are the three things on his agenda, okay? That, what I mean by that is public appearances. Yes, he did depart after the Austin speech, and he went down to spend the night at the LBJ Ranch in Stonewall, but he also went over to Governor Conley's mansion for a reception, that type of thing. I'm just talking about speaking engagements, so, and his trips. Everybody understand that? Okay, that'll be the quiz tomorrow. We will meet tomorrow out in the Commons and take that. It'll all be short answer. Okay, all be short answer. It'll all be short answer.
Thank goodness, actually matching.
There's no match.
Okay, Mary, if you'd be kind enough to get my lights here and shut the door. Okay, I want you to pay attention to this. I want you to make sure, listen. I want you to go through your notes and make sure you have these things in there. So I don't want to hear a bunch of clipping and jabbing and binders going crazy. Get your binders out. Anytime we watch something like this, I want you to follow along and make sure that you haven't missed anything. Okay, here we go. This will kind of talk a little bit about the president's assassination, but we haven't got there. I'm hoping to cover it through Fort Worth. Where do you think that was, just out of curiosity? What's that? What's that? They might have said it, I just couldn't hear you. What is this right here? Nope. Where in Fort Worth? Nope. Parking lot.
That airplane isn't getting you any trouble, is it, Don?
No.
All right. President Kennedy will be making two more of those non-political political trips. He and Mrs. Kennedy will be doing some fence-mending chores to start it over. He and Mrs. Kennedy will be doing some fence-mending chores in Texas.
This is Mayor Earl Cabell of Dallas, Texas, a town that's getting ready, the city that's getting ready for the visit very shortly of the President of the United States. Your city encountered some rather unfortunate publicity here a month ago with the visit of Ambassador Stevenson.
Surely, my dear friend, I don't have to come here from Illinois to teach Texas manners, do I?
Outside the auditorium, one man spat on him, and a woman hit him with her placard.
We undoubtedly will have a few pickets, as you have everywhere in the United States. There will probably be a few of the radical right wing, possibly a few of the radical left wing. But sincerely, we anticipate no trouble.
Because of the unfortunate incident which occurred here during the visit of Ambassador Stevenson, people everywhere in the world will be hypercritical of our behavior. Nothing must occur that is disrespectful or degrading to the President of the United States. And the law enforcement agencies in this area are going to do everything within their power to ensure that no untoward accident or incident occurs.
Shake hands with the president?
Yes, sir.
What'd you think of him?
Oh, that is very distinguished. I think he's a wonderful man.
I believe he is one of the second best presidents in the United States.
I came to see the president, and I said to the president, God bless you, and I met him. He's just like one of us.
First in news since 48.
WBAP, Fort Worth, Dallas. Say When, sponsored by Reynolds Metals and Sterling Drugs, will not be seen today in order that we may bring you the presidential breakfast direct from the grand ballroom of the Hotel Texas in Fort Worth.
10-minute appearance at the parking lot across the street from the hotel, and he is on his way up. We expect him to walk through this door at any moment. When the president appeared out in the parking lot, he broke one of the cardinal rules of security. He went out into the crowd, and of course Secret Service men find this the most nervous time of any presidential appearance. As long as the Secret Service men can keep the crowd away from the president, they have a good chance of protecting him. Here comes the president.